Do you enjoy listening to those martial heroes and heroines in wuxia romance and fantasy adventures? Then you've come to the right place. Audio Wuxia is bringing you the best wuxia and fantasy literature to life in entertaining audio, in which your beloved martial artists are always fighting for justice and righteousness besides bold and pursuing love. AudioWuxia.com, that's audio, WUXIA.com, is not just for wuxia and martial arts lovers. They're for every person who is pursuing happiness and fulfillment in life. Those finely selected titles and episodes are not just wuxia romance and fantasy action, but they're also far beyond: informative, educational, enjoyable, entertaining, and inspirable. Your days will never be boring, but full of sunshine and fun with this membership. AudioWuxia.com specializes in wuxia martial arts romance and fantasy fiction. Listening to books makes people feel happy, and building positive energy through curiosity, fear, and desire. It actually helps change your life for the better. So head on over to AudioWuxia.com and bring words to life. That's AudioWuxia, WUXIA.com, and bring those words to life and inspire yourself.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is the one that everybody wants, me. Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
And welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's time for your Monday Night Raw review. It's Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. Halfway through November, and December is just 2 weeks away. I can't explain how time just flies by, especially this time of year. So much going on. And, of course, if you're a wrestling fan, you're starting to already eye WrestleMania. And Survivor Series, in the minds of many fans, I believe, is the unofficial beginning. Now, WWE won't tell you it's the road to WrestleMania until the Rumble, but a lot of seeds that are planted at Survivor Series and even times at SummerSlam that I could give you examples of over the last 2 years of Becky Lynch and Bianca Bel-Air and Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns that were planted at SummerSlam led to WrestleMania. More famously, Daniel Bryan and Triple H, their match that led to the WrestleMania 31 matchup that they had. That led to ultimately WrestleMania 30, that Daniel Bryan ultimately ended up with the Miracle on Bourbon Street. That all began at SummerSlam. And while SummerSlam has come and gone, we can now look to Survivor Series for even deeper clues. Now, I wouldn't look to every program for clues to WrestleMania. I think there's a lot of details to be ironed out in the world of their plans moving forward for every match. But at least for the big brand name matchups, right? Like the title matches, the big names, Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, even Matt Riddle. What about a returning Randy Orton? That kind of thing. You could even look towards Gunther and maybe John Cena. There's a lot to unpack after Survivor Series. After Survivor Series, you could start to formulate the WrestleMania 39 card. I really believe that. So we're going to start to dive into that after Survivor Series, but for the time being, and by the way, if you're not a patron of the show, I normally plug at this time of the show for Patreon. If you want to get rid of the ads, it's patreon.com/WWE podcast, and you can get an ad-free experience for just $1 a month. But if you upgrade to the SmackDown tier, which is $5 a month, you're going to be getting video. That video, I actually posted a video last night about who could be the fifth member of the Survivor Series War Games teams. And I'll be posting a video tonight after I record this about Stone Cold Steve Austin and his potential, but maybe likely return to the ring. And I've got evidence to prove it, not just rumors, not just Dave Meltzer, not just the Wrestling Observer, not just the Torch, none of that. Right? I mean, those outlets are reporting this as a potential actual reality, and other sources like Fightful. But I actually have hard evidence to prove it as well, that things could be going in the favor of Stone Cold Steve Austin having another match or 2 after this year. I mean, I don't want to get too much into it because I'm trying to give you a hook for the Patreon side of things at patreon.com/WWE podcast. Get the SmackDown tier. You'll be able to watch that video among others. Again, I posted last night. I'm going to continue to post a little bit more, but that's only available to SmackDown tier and higher. So back to Monday Night Raw. Let's dive into it. Now, overall, I thought that the show was kind of your typical second to last show before a pay-per-view. I would never want to be in this spot if I was in the audience. I think a general rule of thumb is that WWE likes to create a boiling point, likes to get things hyped up to the max the show before the actual event, which makes total sense. But the show before the show, right, or the show before the go-home show, usually is a bit of a, we don't know what to do. We can't get things right where we want to be because we have to have some content for the show next week, so we can't give it all away. We got 3 hours to fill. Yeah. I mean, again, it wasn't a bad show, and I don't fault WWE for a lot of the time they had to fill. 3 hours is an absolute bear to fill. That is, I don't envy anyone in that position to try to fill 3 hours of TV. That's a lot, and especially for a show that you can't really go full steam ahead in, and you have to leave some content for next week. It's not an envious spot that I'd want to be in, but I would say that next week in my hometown, we're going to be, which I actually, man, I wish I could attend Raw. It's difficult. Your life totally goes upside down when you have a family, and it's not just yourself that you have to support. So I don't know if I'll be attending Raw. I'm going to guess probably not. So if anything, I'm kind of rooting against next week. I hope it's a terrible show, right? Like I hope it's just a lame, ultra bad, record-settingly awful show next week, selfishly, because then I won't feel so bad about not going. But in reality, I think it'll be a much better show than this past week was, just because it's the go-home show, and there's still some questions that they have to answer. Who is the 5th person on the women's side of the babyface team for War Games? That is a big question. I don't have the answers to that. Right now, you have the heel women's team filled out in Dakota Kai, Io Sky, Bayley, Rhea Ripley, and Nikki Cross. So that team is completely filled. On the other side, you have the team led by Bianca Belair, Alexa Bliss, Asuka, and you have Mia Yim, along with Wrestler X. And I don't know who that person is yet. I mean, I could go in the roster and speculate, but really the entire roster is left wide open. I mean, you could argue it's Becky Lynch. It's not impossible. Becky Lynch, who I think is getting closer and closer to returning. It's possible. And I think, Becky Lynch will probably spend some time on Raw before she goes to SmackDown and starts her program with Ronda Rousey probably sometime in January. So, again, I haven't heard anything regarding that actual return, but it would be a nice return. It'd be a nice surprise. And I will say this, if they don't reveal who that 5th person is next week on Raw, that means that and they're saying they're going to reveal it at Survivor Series, that it's Becky Lynch, right? Like the bigger the stage, the bigger the star. So I believe that if they don't tell you, but they're going to give you hints as to who it is, and maybe tease the heel team of saying, I put a few calls in, and I've got confirmation that she'll be here at Survivor Series, but don't reveal the name. It's Becky Lynch. That's my guess. Now, I can be completely wrong. She's not ready to go. She's not anywhere near returning yet. I am not privy to the inside circle of the injury reports. And I'm not even going out on a limb predicting it yet. My official prediction show comes next week. But for now, that's a possibility. It's in the realm of possibility. So that was a bit of a hook for next week, if they reveal that actual competitor next week. But beyond that, and we've got a lot to talk about, this was really the Austin Theory show. This was WWE. To coin their phrase, and I'm sure that the corporate suits would love me using this word, but it's appropriately used here, not just checking a box that they said the word, but WWE sending a message to fans that Austin Theory is going nowhere. That Austin Theory is, in fact, he's been reborn. That this actually elevated him. That again, in pro wrestling, winning by losing is an art form in a match. And in this case, losing a big matchup, losing the Money in the Bank cash in, and having a failed attempt where 82% of the other competitors have won is usually a big loss. And I had said, and I spoke with Anthony DeMarco yesterday on the current state of WWE, and I said, hey, while Anthony DeMarco thought this could be the potential Austin Theory rise where he could be the one to take out Roman Reigns, I poured cold water on that, thinking, well, it could also just be as simple as WWE taking a step back with Austin Theory, or 2 steps back, and letting him kind of grow on the sidelines. Nope. In fact, it's almost as if the exact opposite happened here, where we got Austin Theory on a level that we haven't seen before. He essentially stripped himself of all of his old identities, of being the youngest this or the youngest that, or Mr. Money in the Bank obviously is gone. I really love it. And he said he's no longer the protege. He's no longer a kid. That he is no longer the future. He's the here and now. I like that. Now he's using the next big thing. I hope he doesn't. I mean, I guess he could take that, but it's been so attached to Brock Lesnar when he debuted in 2002 with Paul Heyman. It's hard to strip Brock Lesnar of that. But I guess if he repeats it over and over, perhaps Austin Theory could adopt it without it feeling kind of like appropriated to him. But right now, it's as if he has been reborn. He's shed his old skin, like a snake growing, shedding his old skin and leaving it behind. And not just in the promo, not just in that promo, which I thought was really well done. To me, it was career defining, not all-time great. See, the difference between a career defining promo and an all-time great promo is career defining is at a crossroads. You're seeing a change. It's career defining in that it is going to change the trajectory of your career one way or another. It's a defining moment that says this is when this particular persona started. He went heel here. He went babyface here. We saw a change in character here. That's the defining promo. That's a career defining promo. An all-time great promo, right? Like, I mean, I think Mick Foley has had some of those throughout his career. I mean, Mick Foley, I think, is one of the more underrated promos of all time. My God, he's so good. The Rock, Austin have had them. Undertaker's had them. But all-time great, John Cena's had dozens of them. I mean, dozens. I think one of his best ones, I'm not trying to get on a tangent, I'm going to rope it back in a second. But if we're talking about all-time great promos, I just wanted to give you the distinction, is John Cena going against Roman Reigns in the famous War of Words when they faced each other at No Mercy, I think it was, in 2017. Just YouTube it. It's brutal. Roman Reigns gets, before he was the tribal chief, gets absolutely, he mops the floor with Roman Reigns. Embarrassingly. But that's an all-time great promo to me. Everything John Cena had to say there. But to me, going back to Monday Night Raw, Austin Theory had a career-defining promo there, and just basically saying he's no longer a kid, right? Like it's like a coming-of-age promo in a way. And Dolph Ziggler, who's the grizzled vet there that hasn't won a match in, probably 5-6 years, came out and heard the promo backstage that Theory was cutting, and basically he called him kid, and then Theory challenged him to a match, and they had a match, and that match I thought was, it was really good. But honestly, did anyone expect this match to be bad? It was just obviously going to be really good. But Theory snapped and went into violence mode. So he followed up this promo with action. It wasn't just a bunch of words that, oh, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. Yeah, it sounds great. Good promo, kid, but let's see what happens. No, they followed through on not just words, but actions here. And he snapped and went into violence mode. And it was awesome. It's just sent a message to fans that things are changing in a big way. And he was trying to hurt Ziggler, and the boos for Theory were audible. I mean, they weren't just manufactured or soft or just kind of like mildly like, we don't like you. Kind of like what you get for Baron Corbin, like where the fans are just kind of more annoyed by the fact that you're even there than really truly hating your character. They're just kind of over you. Whereas Theory was true heat, and it's really nice to hear when fans get that angry, because anger turns into money, and WWE has long forgotten that. So that is going to be, I think, a nice deal. And yes, of course, we also got Austin Theory at the end of Raw, also attacking Seth Rollins after he had his match with Finn Balor. We'll get to that towards the end of the show here, but just for the first part of Austin Theory's Night of Resurrection, I am on board 100%. I thought it was well done and well executed, and it sent a very clear message that Austin Theory is the here and now. I think you should stick with that. Like the here and now. I don't even know any other star that has used the here and now. We've heard the next big thing. We've heard protege. We've heard all that. But we haven't heard the here and now. I'm the here and now. He could do something with that. Make that his own instead of trying to redefine a catchphrase that someone else used. So, all right. What else happened here? We're going to talk about one more topic quickly and then get to our sponsor for the show. Let's talk about... let's take it down a notch and go back to something that's not exactly so intense. Mia Yim versus Tamina. Well, I guess they let Tamina out of the basement for a night, and that's kind of what Tamina's career has been. And it wouldn't be a Tamina match without Corey Graves reminding us of the only thing that he has to say about Tamina, that nobody's meaner than Tamina. That's it. That kind of defines Tamina's career in a nutshell. I mean, you could just take, any random match that Tamina has had and stick Corey Graves as a dubbed over voice and just summarize Tamina's career in just like one sentence. Outside of her moment of the fans cheering for her, like last year's WrestleMania, that's pretty much it. And I'm not trying to make light of her career, but she is, again, an in-house enhancement talent. Outside of a few rare and sparing occasions, she has been the in-house enhancement talent. And they brought her out here to compete against Mia Yim, who is the new shiny toy, part of the OC, and did join the babyface side of the women for the War Games match to go against Rhea Ripley and Damage Control and Nikki Cross, which, by the way, where the hell is Nikki Cross's explanation here? Where is it? Can we not get anything from Nikki? And I could be missing it. I try to catch everything on Hulu. Obviously, they don't put everything out. Where the hell is Nikki Cross and her explanation as to why she's attacking the individuals she is? Well, she had a massive character change. Okay, she went back to her roots, but why? And what's the objective? What are your goals? Why are you doing what you're doing? Maybe we'll get that, but it's been a few weeks now. Can we just get something? I don't know. Just these little things. It's kind of like with Brock Lesnar and Bobby Lashley. I'm just looking for anything. I'm not looking for a 5-star all-time great promo. I'm just looking for basics. I don't know. If you're a wrestling fan, how do you not want that? I know some people just don't focus on it, don't care. But if you're invested in this storyline at all, or Bobby Lashley Brock, give us just the bare minimum. And it's weird that under the guidance of Triple H that he's not doing it. I mean, I don't need some long fleshed out story. Just give us the basics. Say you saw the light, you snapped one day. You're going on a tear, on a vengeance tour for everyone that did you wrong. Fine, cool, great. Fine, I'm on board. Thank you for at least trying to give me something to sink my teeth into. But Right now we don't have that. So, so nobody's meaner than Tamina. That is the catchphrase of her entire career. All right, we're going to take a break for the sponsor of the show. Of course, if you're on Patreon, you won't hear any ads, but you can join everyone on Patreon and not hear an ad at patreon.com/WWE podcast. But if you are not on Patreon, well, I'm sorry to say, we're about to listen to an ad, and then we'll be right back after this. Do you enjoy listening to those martial heroes and heroines in wuxia romance and fantasy adventures? Then you've come to the right place. Audio Wuxia is bringing you the best wuxia and fantasy literature to life in entertaining audio, in which your beloved martial artists are always fighting for justice and righteousness besides bold and pursuing love. AudioWuxia.com, that's audio, WUXIA.com, is not just for wuxia and martial arts lovers. They're for every person who is pursuing happiness and fulfillment in life. Those finely selected titles and episodes are not just wuxia romance and fantasy action, but they're also far beyond. Informative, educational, enjoyable, entertaining, and inspirable. Your days will never be boring, but full of sunshine and fun with this membership. AudioWuxia.com specializes in wuxia martial arts romance and fantasy fiction. Listening to books makes people feel happy, and building positive energy through curiosity, fear, and desire. It actually helps change your life for the better. So head on over to AudioWuxia.com and bring words to life. That's AudioWuxia, WUXIA.com, and bring those words to life and inspire yourself.
Welcome back to the WWE Podcast. Let's get back to more great wrestling audio.
All right, let's move on to the next part of Raw here. I'm not going in any particular order, so if you're looking for congruity and things in order, well, you came to the wrong show. So here's another piece of Monday Night Raw I want to talk about with Bobby Lashley. A renewed intensity for Lashley. This was... I don't know if it's a new Bobby Lashley or if this is kind of just the same dude who's justifiably angry with Seth, but now all of a sudden we've sided with Seth because his music is really catchy, and Bobby Lashley can't cut a great promo to get us invested in his character, even though he looks like $1 million and a Greek god. That's kind of been the Achilles heel of Bobby, where his promo ability doesn't match his body, and maybe that since there's such a disparity between how he looks and how he talks, and that could be in part due to why fans are just so kind of apathetic for Bobby. I'm not saying look, Bobby Lashley should be in the Hall of Fame. And that's the kind of weird part, is not just for his longevity, but what he's accomplished. I mean, he's had WrestleMania semi-main events. He's been WWE champion. He, for how long he's been in the shape he's in, to maintain the shape he's in is really incredible. He seems like a genuinely nice guy. But for whatever reason, I feel like Bobby Lashley just can't get over the hump to really get to that top level, that top level. Even when he was champion, like it's like he's got a boring side to his character that just can't help but bleed through. And I don't know what it is. He just is maybe not deep enough as a character. He's just, I don't know. I'm not complaining about it. This is not a complaint. It's just an observation. And I think most of us would agree, especially based on 20 years of a sample size. That's a pretty damn big sample size. Now, he wasn't in WWE for the full 20 years, I know. But even if you followed him outside of WWE, you can't really deny that he's never gotten an explosive reaction. Maybe, barring any of the returns that he's had. You take those out because those don't really count. Those are kind of cheap pops. But I'm talking like sustained, awesome reactions. That just hasn't happened for Bobby. And it's just that it's the lack of emotional connection due to his, I think, lack of depth and character and ability to connect on the microphone with them. In the ring, he's excellent. Again, top like 1% of the 1% of people in the world in terms of strength, probably, and body. He's just an otherworldly athlete. But doesn't always translate. Even though if he looks like he's chiseled out of stone, it doesn't always translate. And Bobby, for all the success he's had, I don't know. My point is, it feels like he hasn't had that connection with the fans, which is why they have gravitated to Seth Rollins, who has been a heel for like the last 5 years, it feels like, and they respect him. His music is catchy, which I think is one of the biggest contributing factors. He's comfortable in his skin. Seth hasn't completely changed who he is. He's not pandering to the fans. That was a massive mistake when they turned him babyface against Brock Lesnar a few years ago at WrestleMania. That backfired big time. And now he's just comfortable who he is. He's changed his look a little bit with the longer blonde hair. He's got outfits that are still obnoxious, but kind of just endearing at this point. And he can go in the ring big time. And we all know that. That's never been a problem with Seth Rollins. But that is why the fans have gravitated to Seth. He can connect much better on the microphone. And he's a deeper character than Bobby. And I think it's just organically turning Bobby heel because they're kind of bored with Bobby. It just, there's no other way to put it. And I'm not trying to disrespect Bobby at all for everything he's accomplished. But so Bobby Lashley, getting back to the match, boy, I go on tangents, don't I? Sorry, guys. He had a match with Ali that wasn't really a match. Is it more of a destruction of Ali? And Ali barely put up a fight. I was very surprised by this, given where I thought they were putting Ali a few weeks ago after he was attacking Seth Rollins to end Raw. I was like, okay, they're going to stick Ali in the kind of main event of Raw for a little while and see how that plays out. They barely gave it any time to breathe before Bobby Lashley is destroying him, taking him out of open challenges, and this week just toying with him before brutalizing him. I mean, Bobby Lashley is clearly headed towards a solid heel personality, and I like that. I think Bobby Lashley right now needs a bit of a change, and I think Bobby Lashley as a heel is really as effective as he is as a babyface. He's equally vanilla as a babyface as he is a heel, I think. And that's, people will boo him, but they're not going to viscerally hate him. And when they cheer for him as a babyface, they cheer for him kind of like, okay, yeah, I hope Bobby wins. I really don't think most people are super emotionally invested either way, whatever personality or whatever side he's cast on. I don't think people's level of emotional investment is very high. And emotional investment is really what drives everybody to watch and spend their money on the product. But so in my notes, I actually had time to type up notes. I was actually watching Raw at work. Don't tell New York State. They had a renewed intensity for Lashley in the notes I wrote, and he was dominant again, but the crowd, I also think, wasn't sure how to react. So for my criticism of Bobby Lashley as a heel and babyface that kind of feels vanilla on both ends, the crowd really didn't know what to do as well, because on one hand, you have Ali, who's kind of getting, for the first time in his career, some main event spotlight. And at the same time, you have Bobby Lashley, who is justifiably angry about losing the United States championship to Seth Rollins. He is justified here, but the fans kind of forget that. And, being the goldfish that we are that have memories of 5 seconds, at least that's what WWE has billed us and hoped we've had over the last 20 years of watching, that we've just kind of gravitated to Seth, even though we're like, yeah, Bobby's justified, but we still like Seth better. That's what's happened here. And Bobby Lashley is now also in violent destruction mode and toying with Ali, even though Ali got a little bit of offense, was a heel thing to watch, even if Ali is the one that picked the fight. So it's interesting to watch this kind of slow descent into being a heel for Bobby. I would imagine that's what it is, even though he came out this week, slapping the hands of fans, and his entrance was still the same, all that kind of thing. And it wasn't the one that picked the fight, but just based on crowd reaction, he was getting booed, but not heavily. It was kind of like, I don't know what to do. Fans feel like Ali has been mistreated, but also Bobby has a case to be made, and Ali's the one that picked the fight. Like, fans are kind of like sitting on their hands during this, like, I don't know what to do. So they kind of put the fans in an awkward position here for this matchup. And maybe that's the point of the WWE trying to force our hand to choose, right? Like, maybe that's the point, is that management is trying to force the fans to choose a side here, and the fans just haven't done it yet. And you heard that during this segment. It was like you heard some cheers, you heard some boos, but nothing super strong either way. It was just, and at times, silent. So I don't know. Kind of an interesting segment. Dexter Lumis, Miz TV. So Miz TV, which was episode 9,640, the crowd also was barely interested in this, and I don't blame them. I really, when I was joking about how many episodes, like, it probably is in the hundreds. Way too many Miz TV episodes. I know that it's a very kind of malleable format. Like, you can make it anything you need it to be, which is why it's so attractive, and the Miz is good on the mic and all that. I mean, like, can we just end Miz TV permanently? But no, we don't here. And the Miz gets on, and it was really just it was a setup for Gargano to come out and basically announce that Dexter Lumis is going to face the Miz at Survivor Series, and that if Dexter wins, that the Miz has to pay Dexter every penny that he owes him, and that Dexter Lumis earns a WWE contract. Now, I'm really having a hard time here understanding how someone could not have a contract and yet perform on WWE's one of their big four pay-per-views. So someone explain that to me. What they should have said is have a permanent contract, right? Maybe he's under a temporary one right now or so. But no, apparently you don't have to have a contract at all to appear on multiple segments for multiple weeks, attack stars, and then have a match, but then also in the match earn a contract. Well, wait a minute. How do you not have a contract to do those things in the first place? But again, some of you won't care or dive into that. For me, it's just like, come on. It's a little bit of amateur hour with that kind of logic. I know what they're going for there, but they could have just said he's right now on he's on probation or something. I mean, just use something. But nope. All right. So again, Gargano continues to be the truth police with the Miz, and I hope after Survivor Series, I'm ready for this to wrap up as well. I'm ready for the Miz and Dexter Lumis and Johnny Gargano especially to move on to greener pastures. All three of them need to just separate from each other. It's been at times a very funny ride. I mean, there's been times, admittedly, with Dexter Lumis and his look of kind of a very stoic military cut, almost like in a. If you guys have seen, I don't know why I'm thinking of this. Those of you who know, but I'm dating myself now. Walker, Texas Ranger with Chuck Norris. It used to be on the USA Network in the early 2000s, late 90s. I think it was late 90s. Maybe it was even before that. And he had a partner, Trevette. Oh my God, how do I know that? Holy crap. But he looked like one of the villains. Dexter Lumis looks like one of the villains in that show. I mean, Dexter Lumis looks like a late 90s military villain. Or maybe he kind of looks like, what is it, an Avatar? The bad guy in Avatar? Why am I thinking of these things, guys? I don't know. But the point is, Dexter Lumis has a great look. He doesn't talk a lot, which tells you that he doesn't probably have a lot on the mic, but maybe he doesn't need to get to a certain level. Eventually, he'll hit a brick wall, and you either have to talk or you don't to advance. But right now, I'm ready for it, and I think the fans are, based on the reaction that this whole segment got. It didn't get booed or crapped on, but fans are just, you could audibly hear kind of a groan or kind of like, okay, let's get this over with. And everyone's just ready to move on. That's all. Okay, the Miz paid him off. Okay, great. Okay, he's trying to make himself look bigger than he is, and he's the A-lister. Okay, let's go. Get to the match, please. That's where we're at. So I think anyway, based on what I'm hearing. Now here's a funny line. I didn't get this verbatim, so I'm paraphrasing. But Dana Brooke, she actually had a promo. I think it was one of those pre-taped ones, but I'm not sure. And oh my God, this is funny but sad. So Dana Brooke got had a little bit to say about Nikki Cross throwing the 24/7 championship in the garbage, literally and figuratively, last week. And she said to the effect that throwing that 24/7 title in the trash was like throwing away my life's work. I laughed. And then she says that every day she shows up and shows out. What are you talking about? Are we living in the same reality, Dana? Now, I'm not blind to the fact that she has been basically the piñata of the women's division. She has an awful win-loss record. She has never had a prominent position in the women's division. She's never had that opportunity to carry the women's title. So I'm aware of that. At the same time, you look at her and go, well, maybe there's a reason. I'm not body shaming. This is pure objective reality. She's had a lot of work done. Like Paige, who's now in AEW, or Saraya now, or Saraya. I'm going to say Saraya. And it's just an objective reality. Like, she's had a lot of work done. So her look is a bit plastic. And I'm not talking about her boobs necessarily. Like, her face is, there's been a lot of work there. And I personally don't think it looks good. Okay. Now, that's just my opinion. And I don't think WWE, while I think it's a small part of it, is a part of it, that they, don't want that image of somebody who's kind of got that old, I guess, throwback to divas, kind of superficial era for women. I think that's a small part of it. Small. The larger part of it, beyond just the fact that she's had, I think, too much work. I like all natural. I'm an all natural guy. Okay, let me just put it that way, no matter what it is. But again, my personal preference. I think that beyond that, the bigger issue is that she just doesn't cut good promos. She gets weird. She's a weird talker. She has this kind of like nasally at times voice to her, but also she just has weird inflections and doesn't cut a promo that ever feels real. She just is. I don't know. Like, I think that's a bigger problem. I mean, she's okay in the ring. She's an athletic, strong woman. And she's, again, the piñata of the women's division. And when she said that basically the 24/7 title was symbolic of her life's work, I mean, I guess, maybe I guess for her it is. And that's what also makes it sad. So it's like funny, but sad that it's probably true. I heard that. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, what? Oh my God. The 24/7 title, a title that has, it's made its rounds around the world and held by 100 different people, literally. And you're telling me it's your life's work? Oh man. How low is the bar for your career, Dana? I'm not saying she should never be given a chance. I'm not saying she should never have a women's title opportunity, but I'm going on the here and now, to quote Austin Theory. I'm going on what we've seen thus far in her career. I kind of see why she's never gotten that opportunity, because anytime I see her on my screen, it's like I'm never comfortable watching or listening to her. It's always uncomfortable. Does that make sense? Not that I'm scared of how she looks or I'm offended or anything. I just don't connect. I feel like she's awkward. That's my interpretation. All right. Now, she ended up losing her match. All right. She had a matchup on Raw and, of course, lost her matchup. But what did you expect? It was against Io Sky. She lost, of course. And that, again, nothing special here. And Io Sky, dominant. So, all right. What else happened here? Baron Corbin versus Akira Tozawa. and Baron Corbin won. Of course, Baron Corbin, who's, I guess, also on his kind of resurrection tour that isn't so much a resurrection, is still being guided by JBL. And JBL, I guess, is going to be a main player here for Baron Corbin moving forward. I just think right now is kind of a continue, hold me over type of week. And I don't think that it's anything particularly special right now. And it's just more of JBL flapping his gums. You think for all the money JBL has, he's a wealthy man, that he could afford some pants that fit him. I mean, does JBL have some kind of, is he some kind of like, is he self-conscious about his legs? Is there something there? Like, I mean, I don't know. But JBL has always had very baggy pants. And I don't know what it is. It was the style, many years ago. But maybe he could get them tailored. Maybe he can get some. No, I'm not saying skinny jeans, right? Like, but it's like 5 sizes too big. It's always felt that way for me. All right, let's move on. Let's see what else happened on Raw. Let's talk about Seth Rollins and Finn Balor for the U.S. title. Really good main event here. You'd forgotten how good these two are together in the ring. I also liked how the announcers brought back the fact and reminded fans at home of the history of these two and how Balor was the inaugural Universal Champion until Seth Rollins injured him in that very match. And from there, Finn Balor's career was never the same and it went on a downward trajectory. That is all true. Now, of course, it wasn't intentional, but in the framework of pro wrestling, it's a great way to say that Seth Rollins had screwed the career of Finn Balor. And you could say he did it intentionally in the pro wrestling world. So that was a nice callback to their SummerSlam 2016 matchup in which Seth hurt Finn Balor with the buckle bomb and also broke Sting's neck with the buckle bomb. You'd think he'd eventually stop using it. I still get uncomfortable when he uses it because there's so many just factors in that particular movement that it's dangerous. And I understand why so many guys have gotten injured from it. But this was a nice matchup here, and the OC and Judgment Day ended up getting involved, and Rollins hits the stomp. However, after Rollins hits the stomp, after the OC and Judgment Day have their spat, we get Theory attacking Rollins out of nowhere, brutalizing Rollins, and standing tall with the U.S. title in his hand. So Theory, when you think he's done, makes again another statement, ring the bell, to the fans at home and in the arena that this is my place now, right? Like, I lost the briefcase, but if you think I'm going anywhere, you got another thing coming. I'm just getting started. That is the message, and loud and clear received. And it put a ton of heat on Riddle, on Theory again, and the crowd continued to shower him with boos. And it just is also a continuation of Triple H's running theme of leaving the fans angry with the show closing. Now, there's always a dark match that the fans in attendance see that will send them home happy with the baby faces winning. But for those at home, you're left angry again, but wanting to tune in next week to see somebody beat the hell out of Austin Theory. That's the hook. Anger is very useful. It can be turned into money very quickly. So, I'm on board for this. I really, Seth Rollins and Finn Balor, you want to give me a 60-minute Iron Man match with these two? Where do I sign? That's what I would say to you. But again, I think that Finn Balor and Seth Rollins for now are done, but we have a match coming up at Survivor Series with Finn Balor and AJ Styles. So I think Finn Balor and AJ Styles could have an equally good match at Survivor Series, one-on-one. They're going to end it, they say, at that event. So Let's see. Looking through my notes. Oh, Rhea joining Damage Control for the War Games match. I mean, it's a perfect fit. But what I'm looking forward to in that match, not exclusively, but in addition to the whole match itself, is the moment that will happen, inevitable moment, between Bianca Belair and Rhea Ripley, who have yet to have their match. It got postponed by injury on Rhea's side, dental and otherwise. And now they're going to have that moment in the ring. That's going to be fun. And they did display the rules of the War Games match to you. If you didn't see them, they're a bit, I wouldn't say confusing, but there's more to it than you would imagine. It's not just everybody gets lumped in and go at it, guys. There are some things where each team gets one of their teammates released, and then the disadvantaged team gets, you go read them. You can Google War Games match rules. It was right there. There's a little more to it than you'd imagine, but it's still fairly easy to follow of the format. But I'm looking forward to that moment between Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair, because you know it's going to happen, and fans are going to blow up because there's a great rivalry waiting in the wings, which is why I think in part they've kept Bianca Belair champion. Not just because she's charismatic and she's somehow likable, even with the most heel gimmick of all time, but the fact that she can have a great match with anyone. You know that as women's champion, she can work with anybody really well and have a great match with anybody. There's never been a bad Bianca Belair match, ever. And she looks the part. She's young. She's a great advocate, or rather symbol of the women's division moving forward. So I understand why they haven't taken the belt off her since WrestleMania. I have no problem with it, actually, even though I've counted against her many times and thought that she was going to lose. Chad Gable versus Matt Riddle did happen also on Monday Night Raw. Not a part of Hulu, but did see some highlights, some pictures. Right? I didn't see the whole match from start to finish, but people seem to enjoy it in general, and I understand why. Now, I didn't see the need to watch the whole thing because you knew there was really no consequence of this other than putting two guys together that you know are going to be really good, and it was, from what I've seen in the few highlights and in the description of the match and pictures, that Chad Gable got the victory here, but this is also a match that, how can you go wrong? You can't. So Matt Riddle also continuing to flounder in his character, not knowing what to do with him right now. Riddle's in a weird spot as well. Just kind of going from random program to random program. Like 3 weeks ago, he was interrupting Elias that the fans didn't really like. Then he interrupts the Usos and the New Day last week in the great promo they had facing each other, and Riddle interrupts talking about bongs. And then this week he's with Chad Gable. He's floundering. And I'm not worried about his career. That's not the point. The point is he just doesn't have direction right now. And that happens from time to time. He's in that kind of finding where he should be right now. He doesn't have a lane. He's swerving all over the road. But, it's just a matter of time before they right the ship with him. So I think that covers Monday Night Raw. Again, for those that are on the Patreon side of things, I will be posting a video soon. I got to go record it after this, for the Stone Cold Steve Austin potential return at WrestleMania 39, because I'm really excited about that. Because not just now, every WrestleMania season that starts to creep up, you hear about these rumors. The Rock's coming back, Stone Cold's coming back, The Undertaker's coming back, Goldberg's coming back. Everybody's gonna have one last match, right? Like those are very cyclical and predictable. This one has some teeth to it, and I'm going to explain all of that on the Patreon side of things. I really hope you guys join me over there at patreon.com/WWE podcast. And again, join the SmackDown tier for video. But if you want the audio only for an ad-free experience, you can do that for $1. Or go to Apple Podcast and click that ad-free button right on our page for 99 cents a month or $10 a year for everything ad-free audio. But I think that'll do it for me tonight, guys. I really appreciate all of your support. I appreciate all of your continued help in growing this podcast. That's how it grows. It's not because of me, it's because of you. And tomorrow is the mailbag show, so please send in your questions to mailbag@wwepodcast.com. You can call in. If you want the call-in number, it's in the description of our latest mailbag show. I always keep that number in the mailbag description notes, show notes, so check that out. And I think that'll do it for me. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Take care, and I'll talk to you next time. Do you enjoy listening to those martial heroes and heroines in wuxia romance and fantasy adventures? Then you've come to the right place. Audio Wuxia is bringing you the best wuxia and fantasy literature to life in entertaining audio, in which your beloved martial artists are always fighting for justice and righteousness besides bold and pursuing love. AudioWuxia.com, that's audio, WUXIA.com, is not just for wuxia and martial arts lovers. They're for every person who is pursuing happiness and fulfillment in life. Those finely selected titles and episodes are not just wuxia romance and fantasy action, but they're also far beyond, informative, educational, enjoyable, entertaining, and inspirable. Your days will never be boring, but full of sunshine and fun with this membership. AudioWuxia.com specializes in wuxia martial arts romance and fantasy fiction. Listening to books makes people feel happy and building positive energy through curiosity, fear, and desire. It actually helps change your life for the better. So head on over to AudioWuxia.com and bring words to life. That's AudioWuxia, WUXIA.com, and bring those words to life and inspire yourself.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.